I think it's about ready to start. Stand by. I gotta do one more thing. Okay, here we go. This is Bucky, W0SUN. Welcome, everybody. And this is the new Colorado HD 2.1 net. And the reason we call it 2.1 is to differentiate between the original net, Colorado HD net, run starting 2018. It ran for 4 years by Bud, W0RMT. And he retired that net and then directed people over to the digital learning net. The digital learning net ran its course, and we moved it back to its beginning. After having a personnel change, Doug KU0DC, who was a longtime partner with myself, ran the digital learning net for 6 years. And the tradition continues, and he's currently working on, I think he's on a break right now, but he's starting the Digital Learning Net Saturday morning edition at 8 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time over on XLX022 with the Colorado Repeater, no, Castle Rock Repeater Group. And that's another ham radio organization club here in Colorado. So, this is the Colorado HD Hotspot Discussion, Hotspot Digital if you want, 2.1 net. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris to get things started. And I'm ready to read some call signs. And if you want to do some over the air later on, that's fine. But I'll turn it over to you, Chris, KB2IDX from W0SUN. Thank you, Bucky. Here's what we'll do. I'll go through the preamble, and then we can read off who's in there already, and then we'll do over the air. Welcome, everybody. This is the Colorado Hotspot Discussion Net. I'm Chris, KB2IDX. I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, your co-host for tonight, along with Bucky, W0SUN, as you just heard. He's in the Denver, Colorado area. Every Wednesday right here on Colorado HD, XLX303V, 1900 hours Mountain Time. We talk about all kinds of issues related to digital ham radio, answer questions, listen to your comments and experiences, and have fun. Now here's the cool part, at least I think so. We do check-ins online. A lot of you regulars are already in there. But if you're out there listening, in your favorite browser, you go to ham.live. HTTP ham.live. And then you can log in. Gmail works pretty good, but other ones are supported as well. If you need help, just let us know. We'll help you get in. And for other more severe issues with ham.live, there's always a support click button that you can pull up. And we take check-ins over the air as well if you don't have the time to get to a computer or just don't want to. That's cool. Reset. Also very cool is you can access this net to listen to it without a license. We have a couple options. We have Matt, whose page is called S3TAY, but if you go to the link I posted in there, kf0owv.net, I think his link is up tonight. He'll let me know in the chat if it's not, and if he's not here, he won't let me know. But just in case, that's where it is. There's a link there to follow to his YouTube video. So that's one way, and there's also the Brandmeister hose line. Quick reset. So those links are in there as well. Most importantly, please make sure you visit our own website, coloradodigital.net. Great place for resources and blog on there, links, information, you name it. And if you feel like there is also a donation button at the bottom of the page, and all donations will be graciously accepted. It's not cheap to run a reflector like this, and these guys put their own pocket money and time into keeping it up, so let's give them a little help once in a while. It will greatly be appreciated. This is KB2IEX, reset. And once you get into Ham Live, you'll notice that we have a nice little chat room in there. Our chat room is capable of sending you links and photos of things that we might talk about. And, yep, thank you, Matt. YouTube is going. So follow that link I posted in there. I will put them in again in a bit. And with that, let's turn it over to Bucky. And Bucky, read off what we've got already in there, and then I will do the typing in for you for over the air. W0SUN from KB2IEX. Okay, very good. We already have 39 check-ins. Let's see what happens after I finish reading. We usually get a little bit more. So, we have myself and Chris. We also have KF0 OTF, VK2 MSW, W1 BKW, ZL2 Bravo Echo Zulu, N3 Juliet Alpha Sierra, KQ1 USA, N2 BEZ, W5 STC, K5 RUN, N0 KU, WD0 CIV, AC0 XW, KE0 TPW, AE0 NO, N9 DYO, W0 KVZ, KV0 LSM, K6 LCN, KN4 FM, KA1 CNF, KN4 ABF, K0 GIO, N3 PAY, KF0 IGK, W9 EGL, WX4 Charlie, NT6 Delta X-Ray, AE0 NV, KF0 USF, AB4 WS, KK7 VKS, W1 VAN, KN6 WES, let me start that again, KJ7T, W0 RMT, KF0 LPT, W0 SSB, and KF0 ODD, W6 CEP. Alright, that takes us to, now we have 41. Alright, back over to you, Chris, KB2IDX from W0SUN. Okay, thank you, sir. And now, we'll take over the air check-in. If you just happen to be out there in a mobile or your anti-computer or whatever, you don't have to come into the chat room. We're going to take your check-in here over the air. So, all we need is your call sign. Please come now. KV2IDX. WA3 VH, Whiskey Alpha 3 Victor Hotel Lima. Kilo Bravo 1 Papa Zulu Sierra. KV1 TZS. Bob in Connecticut. Okay. We picked up Glenn and Bob, WA3VHL, and KV1 TZS. Anyone else out there? Victor 4, Alpha Bravo Zulu, David from Winnipeg. Okay, David, we got you. Victor Echo 4, Delta Bravo Zulu also added, and that brings us up to 44. Hey, one second. Thank you all for coming this evening, and I am going to send it back over to Bucky, and let's see what you got for us this evening, sir. KV2IX back to W0SUN. Alright, I mentioned I just got back from Utah, southern Utah. I was visiting family there, my son, my grandkids. That was fun. And then we cruised over to Moab, Utah, which I do twice a year. I've been doing this for 18 years. And the last 3 years, we went digital. That's right. We've been doing the whole net on C4FM communications. We have a repeater that we repeater, and we have a generator, and we fix that in different locations throughout that event in March and on C4 communications of using monitoring and my of different people and my job 80 a lot of events and it's so clear so I more good. So, no, okay, we heard everything you said just fine, but you were choppy. Sounded like the internet. Maybe two idea. Okay, over to you, Chris. How am I sounding right now? Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Am I still choppy? It's better. And, yeah, you're still choppy, but it's certainly better than it was. Back to you. Okay, keep me updated in the chat room, guys. If I start getting choppy, I'll go to plan B. I can maybe fix a couple of things. All right, with that, oh, Chris, you're also choppy. Oh, not as bad as Bucky. Okay. And then N3PAY for streaming this on YouTube, and that's always nice. N3PAY. All right. We get an announcement from you. Well, actually, not really an announcement, but new information forth on this new C4FM radio. So, Chris, you sound fine to me, but I'm going to send it over to you, and you can give us a little bit more details on what you found out about pricing on this new FM 310 radio. Go ahead, just W0S. Okay, Bucky. Go to Plan B, though, by the way. Still chopping. And let me know if I am as well. Oh, whether to get your test, sort of angry and have interesting time at that, but, oh, we got 310, past the FCC, and the price on it is, as predicted, $499.95. $50 more for the uncommon sale version. That's disrespected, but me, sale, the right sale, the right sale version. Uh, Basically, a lot of 150. Put C4FM in it. Somewhat expected. The big problem is they're not expected to come out with a 210, a lower model version. That's just scuttlebutt. Don't know that for positive, but by the price on this being what it is, $499, I don't, you know, thing. I, expect use for our wire segment easily. But hey, anyway, let me reset. As I said, that means two things. One is that there's not going to be any third model. But the other thing, I'm pretty sure that this is going to make the used market heat up. If you find any good deals on ST2Ds and 3Ds, that's new radio, 200 and 300. Uh, uh, right. And Yeah, you were picking up too. Not too bad. I can hear it, but I'm a little happy. So, I'm still on, hang on a second. Let me try this method. I'm coming through YSF versus Wires X. Testing 1, 2, 3. How's this sounding, Chris? Well, at first it was choppy. As you know, it cleaned right up. Okay, and this is on Wires X. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is this choppy as well? That's perfect. Now, that's not even a hint of choppy. Okay, I'll try it here for a while. This is my old school. Speaking of used old radios, this is a Yaesu FM7250. Uh, very basic, really cool dual mode radio. Back in the day, I wish they'd come up with, I wish they'd come up with radios like this one, without all the bells and whistles, just a basic C4 FM radio. That'd be great. This is kind of like a mobile version of the FTM, or the FT70D, um, without, anyway, yeah, so few comments, in the chat room about this radio. A little disappointing on the price maybe, but kind of what I expected as well. So, and I imagine there's going to be a sale coming up in the near future. All right, really good, and I'm glad to be back in Colorado, like I said. All right, trying to think of anything else. I just want to add Brian, K2AS, came in, and Mike, N0ANE. Thanks for joining us. We got 46 seconds now in the room. Thanks a lot, everybody. All right, any questions or comments for the net? Anything digital communication related? Questions or comments for the net? Please come out with your call line. KV1 PZS. All right. Uh, let's see. Go ahead with your comment. Yeah, I just wanted to comment, and it's not just for Yaesu. I'd say for the whole big three there, Yaesu, Honeycomb, and Kenwood. It seems like, you all they're doing is putting fancy, um, color touchscreens on these radios. From our SDR, but I can't see why. Just because a radio is an SDR, it automatically makes it a triple price deal. But in fact, I would think that it should cost less because there's less electronics in there because there's more software-driven things going on in there. That cut down on the amount of circuitry that's in these radios. But yeah, it does. It seems like the way things are going, they want to get double and triple price on everything. So, but I'm good with the old school radios. If it's just got a monochrome screen on it, doesn't have to have any fancy touchscreen graphics on it or anything like that. As long as the radio works and it does its job well, I'm happy with it. As long as the price is right. So, Anyway, I've been searching for an HF QRP rig, and there's no way I'm going to spend $1,300 on a FTX for a 10-watt radio that has a fancy color screen on it. I've seen a Zygu. I think it's made. You can get through Radiolity for like half the price, and it has everything that the FTX has. In fact, probably a little bit better of a form factor for POTA. So, anyways, just my thoughts on that, and back to net control, KB1 PZF. All right, good. Yeah, thank you, Bob, for that insight. And my mail in says, it seems like on many things, radio related, the prices are about time of the time. And as well. Go ahead, Chris. You're a valid point. But I'll give you a different perspective on that. Let's call it Jesus' perspective. And I'm just giving you this info. Yeah, they have several factors that they have to deal with. And number one is, like Vale did mention in the chat room, prices are high on stuff anyway, before anything else. That's just the way the market has been moving. Number two, we have to deal with tariffs now. They are likely, I don't know this for a fact, but they're likely absorbing some of that on their end. Also to be considered is, excuse me, let me take a quick one. Sorry about the delay. Yaesu, when they make a product, they make it for what's basically a 10-year life cycle. And they have to find part suppliers that can produce the same parts for as long as they are going to be producing that radio. And that's exactly why they went so quickly from the 500 to the 510. Something happened to part supplies. I don't know exactly what, but that's a very big issue. The 400 was discontinued 3 years ago, I think, now, because they couldn't find an adequate supplier for the big touchscreen. And apparently it's been really hard to get a good touchscreen, which is why they went to the side-by-side on the 310. So they have to be able to produce the same radio for a long period of time. So those are things to consider as a company when you put the price on something. And you'll probably notice if you were to put a Yaesu 150 right next to a Yaesu FTM 310, they would probably look almost identical. So that means they're sharing parts because it's really hard to get good suppliers. So that's just food for thought, Bob. And I will send it back to you if you have a further comment. Take you one piece of S from KB2IDX. Yeah, I mean, all valid points there, and I think, I don't know, there's other companies doing it, and, dealing with the same kind of problems. Granted, Yaesu's a higher quality product, for sure, no doubt about it, and, yeah, so, but it is a sign of times that they want to increase the cost, and obviously, yeah, their costs have, for manufacturing the product has gone up, but I'm sure they would like to generate more revenue as well. So I think that might have a little bit to do with it. So, as well, but, yeah, there's no way I'm going to spend $500 on a handheld. It'll never happen. I'll buy a cheap Chinese radio. Not going to happen. There's no way I'm going to spend $1,300 on a SDR 10-watt QRP rig HF. It ain't gonna care if it is Yaesu. I can deal with not having all the fancy graphics and touchscreens and all that stuff. That doesn't mean anything to me. It's not worth $1,300 for me to have that convenience. So there's a lot of things there. So I'm kind of old school. I had 1980s HF rigs, and I love them, and they work great, and they work just as good as any radio today, I think. And I can work those radios all day long. But yeah, I'm always looking for a good value rather than fancy stuff. So, but that's just me, and that's the way I roll. Back to net control. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. You're not alone. There are a number of hands that I've heard say the very same things. Things broke, though. Anyway, I think I need to turn it back to Bucky. He's got a couple of markings in the chat room that I need to let him explain. So he's got something going on. I'm going to send it back to you, Sir Bucky. KB2IDX. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Good comments, really good comments. And Brian, NT6DX, is there any functional difference between the 310 and the 510? The biggest difference is the interface of the unit. Big difference is you got a color screen on the 510, you got a front-mounted speaker. I don't know if the 310 has that yet. I have to go back and look at it. If you look at them side by side, huge difference. The 310 or the 510 lets you connect your microphone either to the body of the radio or the head of the radio, and you can separate the head and display that differently. So that attracted the radio to my wife, who wanted a very nice, clean radio for her mobile. So she went ahead and got the FTM 500, which is, they don't make anymore, so now they came out with the FTM 510. The 310, instead of up and down, it's side by side. It's a monochrome screen, It still has GPS. It still does PMG, primary memory group, so it does a lot of things that the 510 does. Just looks a little bit different, not as fancy, color screen, things like that. That's the main difference. They both have an optional, for more money you can buy the ASP option. That ASP option is coming out with a lot of Yaesu radios, by the way. And that's the analog signal processor, which cleans up steamy signals. And that's exciting technology. You can get it with or without. Any other differences, Chris, on the two? Well, other than the physical layout and the color screen, they both, I think that the receiver is probably a little better in the 510. But other than that, they're both fully wireless functional. And it's just a smaller package and less expensive than the 510. But funny, not that much less. Well, I'm really happy that the event I do, like I mentioned in Moab, they bought a bunch of FTM 300s back in the day, and they bought a bunch of FTM 200s. Well, not a bunch. I think they have 3 FTM 200s. I think they have 4 FTM 300s that we put in the mobiles, and a couple of FT70Ds. And then people bring their own radios, so I'm just glad about that. We got them while we got them, so. Yeah, that's kind of neat that they came out with a new radio, the FTM 310. That's cool. By the way, ICOM also came out with a new radio, a really exciting mobile radio, E-Star. Anybody, I don't have that information in front of me right now, but if somebody'd like to present that in the chat room. Also, Kenwood, back in Dayton, Hamvention, they showed the new Kenwood mobile E-Star radio. And it's kind of like a mobile version of the D75. So I don't have the information in front of me either, so I can look it up real fast, or somebody else can and place it in there. So ICOM, Kenwood, ECU, all new digital radios, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, maybe later on we can do a price comparison of all 3 radios. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. By the way, this speaking of older radios, this FTM 7250, I really like this radio because the speaker, the audio is fantastic. It's got a front-mounted speaker, monochrome display. It's not fancy, but man, it sure sounds good. Everybody sounds great. All right. Well, let's see if there's any other comments or questions for that. Please come down with your call sign. Yeah, Chris just put a link in with ICOM, the ID 5200. So, they are coming out with the ID 5200. That looks pretty cool. So that's the one they announced. And, alright, very good. Alright, let's see if there's no more comments. Let me get ready to give you some information that I've got. While I'm doing that, Chris, can you get us up to speed on who's checked in? This gives me a quick transition to get you more information. So, over to KB2IDX from W0SUN. Okay, before I do that, there's two marks in there. I think we left off at Brian K2AS, and there's a mark on N0ANE, so I'm going to start with him, N0ANE, W3, KDB, KA5, JKI, KE0SMR, W0MDK, WD0HDR, KE8, UXT, KC8GEF, and KD0D. Alright, that brings us up to 54. Thank you, everybody. And hi, Terry. Alrighty, I hope I gave you enough time. Back to you, Bucky. KD2IDX. Yeah, you just reminded me what I was going to mention. Now, everybody's talking about the price going up. Prices are going up here and there and everywhere. But, Tom, KJ7T, thank you for putting this link in there. Earlier there was a conversation right here on Colorado HD. Earlier today, I was part of a conversation. Tom, KJ7T was there. I forgot who was there. Jimmy was there, N7VDR, and myself. There was one other guy, but I can't remember the call sign. I have to track it down. Maybe I will here in just a bit. But, he mentioned Tom, KJ7T, thank you, up in Oregon, I think. After that conversation we had, he ordered a ham spot. It's called a ham spot 5, version 5, from Colin, this young ham, Colin K0NNK. He's got a website, and the prices are amazing. And this one is running on a Raspberry Pi 5. Check that out, Chris. Raspberry Pi 5. The HamSpot 5. So thanks for ordering that. That's cool. HamSpot.square.site. That's HamSpot.square, like SQUARE, .site. HamSpot.square.site. And, Chris, we were supposed to meet that guy. Remember that young guy? And he had a discount for anybody that would mention, tell him Bucky sent you. He was, had a spot reserved at Dayton Hamvention when we went there. But when we went to visit, he was no longer there. So, too bad. Oh. W9EGL, thank you, Robert. You were the guy. You ordered a HamSpot 5 from Colin as well. So, yeah, very cool. Check that out. Let me tell you something about some things here. Let me read that. First of all, while I'm thinking about it, Tom, I'm very glad you're on the net today. KJ7T runs a blog for a bunch of articles. Fantastic. And I've mentioned this before. I've mentioned some of your articles, Tom. But it's called The Random Wire. The Random Wire. You've got to check out. These are excellent articles by KJ7T. www.randomwire.us. You got to check these articles out. I just had to mention that, Tom, since you're in here and you reminded me. very good articles. A lot of information about digital communications, about putting together hotspots, about putting together I know he's researching the DV Mega little box radio. I know he's working on something about that. So pretty excited about all these articles. So thanks a lot, Tom, for jumping in there, and it's good to see you in the chat room there. Also, one more thing I have to mention. Let me reset. All right, I first met Colin. He hasn't even graduated from high school yet. He's still in high school. Colin, K0NNK. I first met him when he was 12 years old. He was in charge of the Digital Youth Group. It's a youth ham radio club, and he had a nationwide net. And he was running this net every Friday, and he actually ran it for a time on Sky Uplink here in Colorado. Every Friday on Sky Uplink for quite a while. It's no longer there, but that's when I first met him. Somebody donated he first got his ham radio license. Somebody donated a DMR radio. It was an Anytone radio. And they gave him an MTVM hotspot, and he was hooked. So he created the Digital Youth Group. That call sign is N0DYG, the Digital Youth Group. So, Colin, what a guy. I love meeting these young guys like this in ham radio, so it's very, very exciting when these incredible, intelligent people, these young kids, are doing stuff with digital communication. In fact, he's got his own reflector, all-star node. He's got his own, it's not Telegram, it's the other one. His own server. He's on there doing support. He helps Chip do support on his chat room. So cool guy. I just had to mention that. So check out his hotspots. He's been putting them together for some time, and he's been featured on several YouTubers' channels. This is W0SUN. Stand by. Okay, earlier somebody mentioned or asked the question, what exactly does DV Switch give me? They want to know a little bit more about DV Switch. So, let me just tell you in a very short statement what DV Switch is. Stand by, I gotta switch my page here. Okay, DV Switch is it's software, it's a client-server software package, and it allows multiple digital voice networks to connect to each other. Digital voice networks, DMR, G-Star Fusion, NXDN, V25. Also, it allows connectivity with All-Star Link and other voice over IP technologies. So, if you ever want to experiment with that, I'll put a link in here for the manual. It's really easy to install on a Raspberry Pi. Most people use DV Switch by installing the server portion on a Raspberry Pi. And then there's a client portion that lets you use your phone like a radio, similar to DroidStar but better. Or you can use your computer. You can install the DV Switch mobile app on Google Play. And I'm not sure if there is one for the iPhone, but I have DV Switch on my phone. And so that's in its pure form. DB Switch is a client-server software package. The server portion on Raspberry Pi, the client portion on your phone, or tablet or whatever. It can be installed in the cloud, it can be installed on Linux, it can be installed on a Raspberry Pi. So that's in the basic form, that's what DB Switch is. Stand by. I'm using my PTT mic, so I'm back in the old method where I have a little bit of disabled on my left hand, so I can't use a microphone and then move the mouse and computer at the same time. So I need my foot switch is what I need. But I'll go back and see. Now that we're not having any dropouts, I might switch back to my old method. But I included a manual, step-by-step installation process on how to install DB Switch on the Raspberry Pi, and also download the mobile app. Pretty cool stuff. Let me, I'm going to switch back over to my other method of communicating. So, Chris, I'm going to pass it to you real quick, and then you can, I'll take it back here in just a second. All right. Very good. And hopefully you're keeping your ear in this direction. I do have a question since we're talking about that. That's a great document, by the way. I downloaded that and saved it. But I'm wondering if, say I have DB Switch on a Raspberry Pi, can that run in the background, excuse me, while I use the Pi for something else? Or does it take over the whole Pi? Like when we use a Pi for Pi-Star, it takes over the whole Pi. And hopefully that's giving you enough time. Back to you, sir. KP2IDX. Well, Chris, if you look at the instructions, I can answer that. It's in the instructions, but I'll just answer it right off the bat. It's an image, just like a hotspot image. So if you download the image and put it on a Raspberry Pi, it takes up the whole Pi. So you have to have a dedicated Raspberry Pi hotspot to, that's the easiest way. I think you can install it a different way too, but I know there's an image that you can install and it does take up the entire Raspberry Pi. How am I sounding, by the way? As my father said on his 93rd birthday, so far so good. Okay, I'm going to see if Bud W0RMC is in the house. It's really exciting to see Bud check into the net. So if you're listening, Bud, I am calling your name, but I'll give you a minute. I will call on you. If you're not there, that's okay too. But so DB Switch, it uses the server as the central hub to connect to different networks. So, for example, what I just mentioned, you have the phone version, the client, and you have the server version. But, like I also mentioned, it supports digital voice protocols. So, not only can you connect to YSF or DMR or D-Star, just kind of like DroidStar, right? But it allows other systems to take advantage of this same software to connect between different networks. So, for example, you can connect All-Star over to digital with DV switch technology. How do they do this? I'm going to mention this. This is important. All right, now listen carefully. So, DV switch, they do vocoding with an MD380 emulator, and that's the old TYT DMR radio. Very popular. I used to have one back in the day, a TYT MD380 emulator. Somebody took that code, or the firmware, and they backward engineered it and made it into an MD380 emulator, and that's what they used to do the vocoding. So, DV switch can also be used to connect and bridge between different systems. So that's where you see it show up. That's why people mention DV switch. So, for example, here's a really cool technology. You've heard me mention it before. Node Ventures. They came out with a All-Star node. And this All-Star node seemed to be pricey at first, right? So so what they do is he gives away DV switch as part of the software, but he doesn't call it DV switch. When you buy the clear node, you get the All-Star portion, but you also can do a bridge from All-Star over to digital. So you can bridge over to from All-Star to YSF or to DMR, Brandmeister, TGIF, Amcom, it doesn't matter. D-Star is very tricky. When I first bought mine, I got to reset before I time out. Hang on. Okay. So you can ask yourself, I know you're listening and you're asking yourself, this is really cool. Can I use a hotspot with DV switch to connect? No, you can't. No. Hotspot, what do they use? They use digital voice, MMDVM, right? Okay, so stick with that, MMDVM. The clear node looks like a hotspot, very similar, but it's not using WPSD, 5-star, or any of those things. It's using their own proprietary software. With ASL3, All-Star, they're using All-Star ASL software, but he also has a DV switch server that his unit connects to when you set up the bridge, and this is all used with a mobile phone app. So you take your mobile phone app and you can connect to any All-Star node, but you can connect to an XLX server or an XLX host like our XLX multi-protocol. You can connect to any reflector. It does have a difficult time with D-Star. And I'm going to talk about that. Why does everybody have a hard time with D-Star? What's the problem with D-Star? If you can do All-Star to digital, why can't you do D-Star, for goodness sakes? I'll talk about that in just a second. But, so, let me see if, W0, let me see if, hang on a second. Let me reset. Okay, here we go. Bud is in the house. He's listening. I see him in the chat room. W0RMT, Bud. I used to use your DV switch. So when I first got, my first experience with DV switch was a couple of years ago. It was like 3 years ago. You put a DV switch server up. You still have it up and running. And I got and downloaded the client. And I connected to that DV switch server with my phone. I also connected it through the web. It was really cool. So I want to hear your take on DV switch. So how do you do D-Star with DV switch, and how do you work that out? So what can you tell us about DV switch? Over to W0RMT from W0SUN. This is W0RNT. Let me make sure I've got it. I think I do. From the looks of the dashboard, I'm coming in direct to XLX303 on YSF. Maybe you can let me know, Bucky, if everything sounds okay, and then I'll continue. Yeah, but you sound great. Fantastic. Go ahead. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, W0RMT. So, I have a DV switch server, and like Bucky described, it's a server that you set up on a Pi or on any Linux-based machine, and you can set up services to run in the background while the processes are running. You can certainly use the image to install it on a Pi, and that's what most people do, and that sort of dedicates the Pi to being your DB switch server, but you can install it manually and have other things running on the Pi as well. So on the Pi that I have running, I just have the DB switch server and an all-star node on that same Pi. As I mentioned in the chat, I use actual hardware transcoding with mine instead of the built-in MZ380 emulator. I just use a ThumbDB from Northwest Digital, which is like, Chris, what you posted in chat. The DV Mega DV stick is just another version of a USB um, um, AMD chip. We use different ones on XLX303. The ones we use there have 3 channels per stick instead of 2. But yeah, they're basically all the same thing. But the nice thing about the hardware transcoding is it's much more reliable for that kind of transcoding between modes, and it sounds a lot better. Let me pause real quick and I'll pick it back up. Okay, W0RMT continuing. Yeah, as Bucky said, there are different clients then that you can access the server with. There's the DV Switch mobile app on Android. There are what are called the HUC clients, that's Hotel Uniform Charlie, HTML USRP clients that run either in the web, so you just run it in your web browser, or you can install a native client on Windows or Linux and access it that way. And those are ways you can access your DV Switch server. And yeah, Bucky, you still have an account on mine, so you can access it. Other folks do as well, so I've got it set up with multiple users, so different users can access it. And you can set up the rights or the privileges that a user has. So even for yourself, when you access it, whether they can tune it to different modes, whether they can change talk groups, whether they can enable or disable other services. So you can do a lot of things. You can access all the different digital modes. And something else that Bucky mentioned was sort of was really the idea of using your DV switch server to create regions, which you can do, but you got to be kind of careful with that when we drop it and pick it back up. Okay, I think I may have dropped for a second there, but yeah. So with great power comes great responsibility, right? You can bridge, different modes together, bridge talk groups from one mode to another, but we have encountered a lot of problems with people playing with their DV switch servers and bridging, for example, one of our modules on XLX to something else. But if our module then is linked to a Brainmeister talk group, then you've created an unauthorized bridge. So, always before you create any kind of bridges when you're messing around, make sure that it's a safe playground, and by, bridging things together, you're not going to cause any problems. You could usually cause looping problems between things that are already connected. You could be creating illegal bridges that aren't allowed by the rules of the reflector manager or the network. Just be mindful. It was like I dropped it in there. Just be really mindful of if you're going to play around and
create a bunch of bridges. But it's really fun to play with. It's a very capable thing. Another kind of one cool thing I've done, I haven't done it in a while, is because the client app can run on your phone. You can then connect it to your smartwatch, for example, if you have a smartwatch connected to your phone, and just type the audio there, so you can receive and talk through your watch, which is kind of a cool nerd thing to do too. But let me turn it back to you, Bucky, and see if you have any questions, or if that just added to the confusion. W0SUN from W0RT.
No, this is great. Really good information. And yeah, you're, that was my first experience with TV Switch. My other experience with TV Switch was using that clear node. And they don't really cause, it's really confusing with the clear nodes, and they don't call it bridging. You can actually connect to an all-star node or hit the tab to go to digital and connect to a YSF reflector or some other Brandmeister talk group. So with great power comes great responsibility. I like how you mentioned that. And I'm going to expound on that here in just a second. So good. I'm really glad you brought that up, because it does cause looping. It does cause crazy bridging scenarios. So I've seen so many problems if you don't do it right. So you got to be a little bit aware of what you're doing. That's the one thing I'm very cautious about the clear node, because you don't know you're creating a bridge when you actually are. Back over to you, and I'll let you wrap it up.
W0RT. Yeah, I just logged into my HTML client in the browser to look at this, but it's really fun to play with, and it's very accessible. Years ago, I made some videos and put them on YouTube about how to install it on a clean Raspberry Pi using the image and get it set up. So you can search for those if you want. And there's a user group on Telegram, there's a DB Switch group, and there's a various groups.io groups as well. And the developers, Steve and Mike for IRR and for IRS, are very willing to help you get things going. So have a look at it, play around with it, and it's a lot of fun. If you're unsure, ask before you bridge something. So the other caution I'll say, I like the great power comes great responsibility, but also the just because you can doesn't mean you should. So always keep those two things in mind. But it's a very cool and innovative piece of ham radio technology. Okay, back to you, Bucky. W0SUN, W0RT.
All right, and I noticed that in the chat room you mentioned that on your DB Switch server you use the Northwest Digital Thumb DB drive. It's much better than using the software MD380 emulator, which I mentioned earlier. And to answer Chris's question too, and I should have thought about this, I was looking at the directions, looking how easy it was to download an image for your Raspberry Pi, but I didn't think that, of course you can use it in the background if you do the other type of install, which is downloading the code and installing it via the Raspberry Pi OS, which is also easy to do. Probably not, I think most people use the image like mentioned. So I thought it was interesting that you used that ThumbDB, and I guess you just stick it in the USB port of the Raspberry Pi. So, and there's a screenshot. Oh, that's awesome. There's a screenshot of the HTML client. And I think I have a screenshot of the mobile app client as well. So there you go. Hey, all right. That's pretty cool. So that's what that looks like. Now, DB Switch also has its own dashboard. So when you install the server portion, you can look at the dashboard and link to it via a web browser to your own Raspberry Pi IP address and you can watch activity on the dashboard, and that's pretty neat too. So it's got a lot of uses. Now, here's the thing. It's so easy to install on, let's say you have a node, an all-star node, right? You have an all-star node, and you want that all-star node, you want the capability to bridge into other networks. You can install DB switch on the same all-star node and link into each other just by updating some configuration files. And you got to do that on the Linux side of things. You got to be familiar with Linux and be okay with editing conf files and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty neat. So these are great screenshots in the chat room. If you want to join us in the chat room, come on in on ham.live, ham.live. All right, but I might have another question for you a little bit later, but let me reset. Okay, I'm going to expound upon the cautionary use of, let's say, a clear node. Even though they don't call it a DB switch, that's exactly what you're doing is using, when you use all your clear node and you think, oh man, I want to go check this out on Grandmeister. So you go and you click and you go, I'm going to try out Talk Group 91 worldwide. That's kind of neat. I like that talk group with my DMR radio. That's really cool. I'm going to go jump over there on Talk Group 91. So you take your clear node and you take your little phone app and then you click over on Brandmeister and you click over on Talk Group 91 and then you make the link. You don't know you're doing a bridge. You're totally innocent on this, and you're transmitting and you're communicating, and it's great. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't work anymore, and you're like, "Uh-oh, what's going on?" You try to connect, and you're hearing something like you're banned, or you need to wait, or you're not able to connect, and you're like, "Oh no, what's going on?" Well, you connected using an unauthorized bridge. So Brandmeister considers that an unauthorized bridge, especially with the talk groups at the top, like 91 or 93 North America, or 92 or whatever those talk groups, 91, 310 USA or 3100 USA, or 450 somewhere in Australia. If you connect to those high-level talk groups with ClearNode or DB Switch for that matter, it's an unauthorized bridge. And that is where you need to have good responsibility. Okay, so I don't know if they mentioned that in the documentation. I never read the documentation, even though I have a ClearNode. You got to be careful with that. So another thing you got to be careful with is if you do make the bridge somewhere, like I don't know, let's say talk group 31088. It's a 5-digit talk group, so it's at the upper levels. And, you know, you got the 2 digits, you got the 3 digits, you got the 4 digits like 3100, you got the talk groups that are 3 digits. Those are off limits. You cannot bridge to those upper level. Then you got the 5 digits, which it's very, you know, is it legal to do? It says you have to get permission from the talk group owner. So we're the owner of talk group 31088. So if you get permission with us and if there's a problem, you can mention that. I suppose that is the correct method that I've seen. I don't know how critical it is, but you got to be very careful with that. But as far as 6-digit talk groups, where do those come from? This is a lesson in Brandmeister hierarchy. And so when you're using Brandmeister, this is good to know. Let me reset. Okay, talk groups like KC-Wide, talk groups like SkyUplink, for example. Those are 6-digit talk groups, like KC-Wide 313136. Um, SkyUplink is 310847. Different clubs like Parker Radio is 310884 or 844, excuse me. Those are 6-digit talk groups. Where do those come from? Those are not actually talk groups. They are repeater IDs. You can even connect to 7-digit personal IDs, or you can change your personal ID into a talk group by doing a group mode and just making it a talk group. So those are totally acceptable. Nothing wrong is going to happen. So if you connect to KC-Wide, for example, with ClearNode, it's perfectly okay. Brandmeister's not going to have a problem because those are 6-digit level talk groups. Why the fuss over this? You have to understand how Brandmeister is organized and how they use this in their worldwide network. What they do is they all the top level talk groups are duplicated all around the world. So every master server carries talk group 91. They duplicate that and they carry that talk group on all the master servers. So if you connect to talk group 91, you're creating multiple, with every bridge that's created, creates multiple packets and a lot more traffic. And a lot of these servers that host these master servers, when you're creating massive amounts of traffic, that's a big problem. And that is exactly the reason they don't allow bridging to those top level talk groups. Okay, so they do not duplicate 6-digit level talk groups. So if you're going to talk to KC-Wide, talk group 313136, that's not going to be carried on a master server in Spain, for example, or in the UK. That's only in the USA master servers, so that's not going to be duplicated. And that's why it's okay to connect to that via a bridge. All right, let me take a quick break and turn it over to Chris, and then I have more to give you. You're listening to the Colorado HD 2.1 net. I hope you like that, Bud. Bud is the original net controller of the Colorado HD net, so I'm really glad to have him participate on the net today. Over to Chris, KB2IDX. This is W0SUN. Okay, good deal. This is great stuff. Thanks, Bud, for all those and everything you do, man. We appreciate it. And I'm learning little by little about DV Switch. And it would be real easy for someone to make a mistake. And that's not a good thing. So I promise I won't touch anything until I know what I'm doing. But I also want to get it on my phone too. So I'm speaking in terms of there is a new one just came online, Southwest Florida, just putting together this sort of thing, and that's why it's of direct interest to me, and it's moving along very well. But I learned something and that's that the audio was probably better if we go with the Bambi sticks. So I'm going to tell Drew, the guy that does that you might want to order 2 or 3 of those, especially for D-Star, right? Okay. Hopefully you've had enough time to get caught up. We have added one more of our friends to the chat room. Welcome, Mark, W-A-2-N-Y-Y, bringing us to 55. Okay, Bucky, back to you, sir. KB2 idea. All right, real quick. Hey, Bud, since you're on there, and I got Bud's blessing to when we transitioned from Digital Learning Net, which was great doing that net for 6 years with KU0DC, and we transitioned back to Colorado HDNet, and now I call it Colorado HD 2.1. Why 2.1? Well, I don't want to call it Colorado HD 2.0 because there's already a YouTube channel with the 2.0. I don't want to get any confusion there. So, but I don't know what you think about that. But really quick, how did Colorado HD come about? And we have the talk group. We have a label 31088. Colorado HD, Colorado Hotspot discussion, and tell me a little bit, I know it started with the early days of Hotspot and bringing that to people's attention, something like that, and what year did you start it, what year did you end it, and retire from that net? That was a great net, by the way. Over to W0RMT with just some quick comments about the original Colorado HD net.
Yeah, W0RT, thanks, Bucky. Well, years ago, I forget the year, 2014, 15, I don't know, Jimmy inside the VDR and I used to chat every morning on 3171, which was Northern Colorado, which is Northern Colorado. Chatted in there with Aaron, N0WAR, who's now Silent Key, Ivan, W1VAN, Dave, W0HDR, and we were kind of regulars on there, and at the time, Jimmy and I, and Dave, and Ivan, and Aaron, to some degree, were all getting into hotspots, and we came up with the idea to start a hotspot discussion group, and also at the time, you could get some names. Sorry, I dropped it there. You could get some name talk groups on Brandmeister, so we registered 31088 as Colorado HD for hotspot discussion. At the same time, we registered 31084, the NOCO Mountain Front Range, I think we called it, 31083, Colorado Severe Weather. But Colorado HD was born in around 2014, 15, I guess, because we wanted to talk about hotspots. And not long after that, we launched the net. And although I was net control, it was definitely a group operation. Dave was always working behind the scenes, and Jimmy, logging people in, and it was quite an operation. So I think we ran the net for 4 years maybe, but it sort of run its course, and you know, time moves on, your interests change, and so we passed it off, and then you guys picked up with Digital Learning Net. But yeah, the birthplace was there with myself and Jimmy and Dave and Ivan and Aaron talking about hotspots, and then wanting to create our own talk groups in places. So Jimmy, Ivan, Dave, they can tell you the story from a slightly different perspective, but I think it was all that same time. And I can't recall, I think the year was around 2015. 14 or 15 when we started the talk group, and then the net probably a year after that. Back to you, Bucky. W0SU and W0IT.
And thank you very much, Bud. Yeah, that was a terrific net. I loved participating, attending, and checking into that net. Very good net. And when that net Yeah, you ran that net for about 4 years, and I was really sad to see that net go off the air. But I was really happy when not only you, but people like Toshin, who wrote so much documentation on PyStar, recommended and directed people to the digital learning net. Um, and then when we moved from Skyhub Link over to Colorado Digital Multi-Protocol XLX 303 on this very talk group, that was really extra special. So thank you very much. And I'm very happy. I hope you're happy with what I call Colorado HD 2.1. So that is the reason that I'm bringing it back home to this talk group 31088. It has so much meaning for Colorado HD hotspot discussion. And Colorado Hotspot, the official name now is Colorado Hotspot Discussion 2.1 net. But you're going to hear Colorado HD 2.1 net every Wednesday. The original net was on Tuesday, but I can't do it on Tuesday, so I kept doing it on Wednesday. So hopefully that's okay. But thank you very much, Bud W0RMT. I learned a lot from you over the years, and really great to have you on the net. By the way, Bud recently came back from some work with the National Science Foundation back in Washington, D.C. Was really traveling quite a bit back and forth. He's also a PhD and a professor and has been teaching for a number of years, so he's very good at running the net. And he has a different style, which I love. My style is totally different. So thanks a lot, bud. I just wanted to give you guys that information and know why. That's why we're kind of going back to the roots of Colorado Digital Multi-Protocol. And this is W0SUN. Stand by. Yeah, thank you, Bud. He put a link in amateurradionotes.com. Toshin, KE0FHS, was part of that whole group that rallied around